we're going to come on into a nice little deep squat on the ball. So ball and then block is all the way to the floor. Beautiful. And you're going to sit in there as comfortably as you can. You can have the feet kind of in front of you. Basically, this is going to be pressing up into the very bottom of your pelvic floor. And look what I have today. I finally have my little model. So bottom of the pelvic floor right here. The perineum, again, is going to be between that vaginal opening and the anus. So we're going to kind of be pressing there. For some of us, we might feel this movement more in the back. Some of us might feel it more in the front. So what you want to think about as you inhale, we're going to kind of switch the breathing up a little bit and we'll explain it as we go. As you inhale, I'm just going to have you think like you're inhaling up, you're lifting everything up, kind of pulling away from the ball. So filling up those lungs, lifting, like you're inhaling up to the crown of your head. So big inhale, exhale, sink into the ball and kind of push away. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, let it drop down. Okay, so this is what I like to call more so our relaxation breath. So if you're on the floor doing yoga and you're in like Shavasana where you're trying to relax and melt into the ground, you're inhaling and then you're exhaling to melt. All right. There's also a working breath, which we'll get to, but right now we're just doing that relaxation breath. We inhale, we expand, we exhale, try to let everything drop down into the ball. So close your eyes. I want you to just focus on the pressure you have in the bottom of your pelvic floor right now. Think when you inhale, you're trying to think like you're almost slightly lifting off the ball. You're not pressing through the legs. You're just trying to pull that tissue away from the ball. That's kind of that Kegel. And then you exhale, let it just sink back down. Inhale. Try to pull it away, pull it away, pull it away. Feel that core tighten. Exhale, let it drop down. We're going to take 5 more breaths just like that. Keep the eyes closed. I'm going to be looking at you. Don't worry. Only judging how the ball is moving, but just focus on your breath.
Can you see me? Do I need to adjust my camera?
I got you. Nope, I can see both of you. Good. Let's take one more. And then give me a little feedback. Okay. Betsy, how's that feeling?
I can really feel the pelvic floor tightening, being on the wall and being elevated where I don't really have much weight on my feet. So
Okay.
I really think about I can isolate that.
Yes, yes. Okay. Do you feel when you're relaxing, do you feel yourself
Yeah.
drop back into the ball? Okay.
Yeah.
And then Heather, how does that one feel?
No, I can like feel the pressure, and it's funny. I inhale and I'm like I'm not lifting up at all, and then I exhale and I can like feel it come down. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. All right, Anna, so we're grabbing ball and block. We're just doing our little biofeedback pressure management. So we'll actually, we're going to come back to that in a moment. I'm going to have you put that or come off of there. You're going to just take the ball with you. So we'll come back to it, Anna. Do you have your ball, Anna? No. So I'm going to have you grab a pillow. Do you have like a pillow on your couch, a regular pillow? You can fold it. Perfect. You can fold that right in half. Okay. So we are going to place the ball between those inner thighs. Boop. And I'm going to kind of come at an angle. So inner thighs, not just the knees. I want you to get it nice and low, right into the between those legs, right in between the inner thighs. So as close to the pelvic floor as possible. So when we think of the pelvic floor, the adductors, that like cord of muscle that attaches right to the bottom of your pelvis, that muscle tissue is flushing with the muscle tissue in your pelvic floor, so underneath. So super, super, super important here. All we're going to do is some pelvic tilt with that squeeze. So remember last week we were thinking we inhale, we expand, we exhale. This time we're pulling up. This is our working breath. So we just did our relaxation breath. Now we're doing our working breath. We're going to inhale, expand, and relax. Exhale, squeeze the ball, pull those hip bones up towards the rib cage, and think about lifting the pelvic floor up towards the crown of your head. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze that ball. Zip it right up from the pelvic floor through the core. Inhale, release. And we will review both of the breaths after this. But right now, let's just take a good 6 breaths here. Inhale, release, expand. Exhale, we squeeze that ball, pull those hip bones to the rib cage. Feel that pelvic floor lift as much as you can, a little squeeze down there. Inhale, release. And Heather, I'm going to have you take your hands right at the bottom of your rib cage. As you exhale, I want you to give yourself a little bit of pressure around those ribs.
I'm so uncoordinated. I'm like losing my breath, which one I'm supposed to be doing.
That's okay. So we're going to inhale, just expand and relax. Exhale, squeeze everything together. Yes, beautiful. Let's go ahead. Let's all do 3 more of those. Good, Anna. I can see that belly moving. Looks good. Beautiful. Okay. Let's come off from there for a moment. All right, how did that one feel? Did we get a little bit, any sensation in the bottom of that pelvic floor where we were feeling the pressure on here?
I had to really think about it. Sometimes, like I'm squeezing, I'm like, oh, wait, my pelvic floor isn't
Like
lifting.
lifting?
Like always delayed.
Yes. So just reviewing, and we'll come back to this. We'll grab the ball and the block again. So there is 2 different breaths, okay? And this is really important. Again, if anyone has any issues with leaking or pressure, this is important. Even if you don't, this will take us on even when we are heading into post-menopause, all that fun journey, because we do start to lose some strength in our pelvic floor during that time. But we need to make sure we have the coordination of like when we're like relaxed, our pelvic floor can relax, so we're not like tensed up. Okay, so we're not putting pressure on our bladder and having to pee all the time. And then, for example, if we're sneezing or coughing or lifting, we need that pelvic floor to actually be able to lift properly. Okay, so we need it to relax and we also need it to work. So we have our relaxing breath, we have our working breath, and the coordination is important for those 2. So it's important to practice both. So when we grab the ball and the block, we're going to do our relaxation breath. We're going to come back up on top of that. This is the one where we actually lift the pelvic floor when we inhale, or sorry, when we yes, inhale. Woo. It's Monday night, so we inhale. We think lifting everything up towards the ceiling. Exhale, we relax right down. We inhale and exhale. And then on, if you have if you have a yoga block, you can pop the ball. Are you sitting on the pillow?
I'm sitting on the pillow and I found books because I
Beautiful.
don't know
Perfect.
what life is. Yeah.
Nope, that is absolutely perfect. I wasn't sure. Awesome. So we're thinking about that pressure underneath the bottom of our pelvic floor. And we're trying to, as we inhale, we try to lift up from it, just that tissue. We're not pressing through our legs. We're lifting that tissue up. Exhale, let it drop down. Inhale. Exhale. Let's go 3 more breaths just like that. Inhaling that up. Exhale. You should almost see a tiny bit of movement, like it's pulling off. And then when we exhale and we drop into it, that ball should squeeze a little bit more. That is our lovely biofeedback. This is a great one. You can even do this in front of a mirror. So you can see that ball move, because sometimes it's that visual cue. Sometimes our body's like, I'm not feeling it. And then you see it and you're like, just kidding, I am. So I oftentimes put people in front of a mirror to get, again, that biofeedback. Okay. Again, how did that feel? About the same as before? Are we feeling a little more? Or is it kind of like, all right, there's a sensation there?
The difference for me is this exercise, what my breath and pelvis is doing is for decades, that's the way I was like to do everything. When you inhale, everything tightens, and when you exhale, everything lets go, and everything else is the opposite. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so like, Anna, you were talking about the coordination.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think a lot to relax as I inhale when
Yeah.
doing all the other ones. It's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want you to think about it like this too. And this might help. Think of so when you inhale, right? If you think of like a balloon, that's like the air filling up the balloon, right? We're putting air into our diaphragm, into our belly, into our pelvic floor. So think of it more almost like you're stretching it,
Yeah.
and then exhaling, you're deflating it. Okay, so that's like your
Good,
working
good,
breath.
good.
We inhale, we stretch it out. We're like releasing, like if you're thinking of like the bicep as the pelvic floor. Exhale, we pull everything up and we squish it. Inhale, we release everything and we elongate it. We stretch it out. Exhale, inhale, and that's how we're supposed to. Like if we're doing a bicep curl, we're gonna exhale it up, inhale it down. If we're squatting or deadlifting, we're going to actually, in that sense, inhale down, exhale up as we push. So that's where we need the two different breaths because it's going to depend on what we're doing as well. And that helps the coordination of our pelvic floor do what it needs to. Before we move on to too much, I just want to go on. There's two more exercises I just want to review because they're in your program this week. Um, so I'm going to have you grab your block, your books, and then I'm going to have you grab, does everyone have a band?
I have a band.
Yay! And then these are the last two we're going to review
You've
tonight.
seen my gym evolve over time.
Yes, I love it. Oh, look at that. Oh, that looks so pretty. I love when the gym is like organized and things are like color
This is
coordinated.
this is
Oh,
a men's tie rack, like that
that's
a guy
perfect.
would use to store his ties.
You're like, and there for my resistance band. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll start with the block, the yoga block. So these are going to be for your glutes. We are going to focus on that booty. So both these exercises are going to hit glutes. Second exercise is going to be glutes and obliques. But we are elevating that single leg bridge from earlier this or last week. We were doing a single leg bridge. We're going to elevate it now. If you haven't done it yet, that is okay. We are still going to elevate. So I'm going to have you put your right heel on the block. Left knee is going to come back. You can let your left knee rest on your left hand or just kind of keep it up. But we're going to think about driving that leg, those hips up through that right glute. It doesn't have to be super high. We are going to think as we do this, we're going to exhale, do a little lift of the hip bones to the rib cage. So there is some core tightness. Inhale again, release it all. Exhale. Pull those hip bones up towards the rib cage to help elevate. Inhale, release it. Here we go. And Betsy, you can just let that knee kind of, that left knee bend and release like towards your chest. So you don't have to keep that leg straight. And same thing, Anna, you're just going to let that left knee kind of drop down towards your chest a little bit more.
I got kicked
There you
out. My
go.
internet dropped. What do I do?
No worries. We're going to grab the block. So Heather, we're going to have that block underneath our right heel. Left knee is just going to kind of come towards the chest, and we're going to press up through that right heel. You're going to exhale as you press up, thinking like you're pulling those hip bones a little bit towards your rib cage. It's not going to be a full tuck, just a little activation there. Beautiful. And then inhale slowly down, tap. Exhale, we bring it right back up. And we're going to go for about 10 on each side. Everyone might be at a little bit different rhythm, and that is okay. So when we're thinking elevated glute bridge, we're going to get into the bottom of that glute max, and then we are also getting into the top of that hamstring. So a nice supportive one for the low back and very supportive for those butt muscles. And when you're ready, you're going to go ahead and switch sides. Beautiful. Looks good, Betsy. If the hamstrings are cramping at all, just give it a little shake. I know it's like evening time. We might have been sitting for a bit today or a lot. So we're thinking big exhale as we press up, inhale, tap back down. You can even, I see Anna doing it, you can even touch that left glute just to make sure it is turning on. I love giving feedback to my muscles. Again, if we were sitting a lot today, sometimes they're like checked out. Excellent. Beautiful. Let's go one more. All right. Does everyone feel the butt muscles working?
That's hard.
It is hard. Did we
I did a
feel?
workout video yesterday that was a butt day, so thanks for that 2 days in a row.
You're welcome. But that's good. The booty's feeling it. We got the muscles activating. Beautiful. The glutes super important. They are obviously, boom, attached at the backside of our pelvic floor. They come all the way up to here. We have 3 layers of them. So super, super, super important for stabilizing. I like to do single leg ones because most of us have a slightly rotated pelvis, just from either pregnancy, birth, being super active, sitting on one side more than the other, different driving positions. There's a million reasons, but a lot of us already have a slightly rotated pelvis. So doing single leg movements can help even those out more. All right, last one I'm going to show you. I know we're crunching on time here, but since it's just the four of us, I want to make sure you're feeling good for the workouts this week. So we're going to grab our band. If you have, I would go light. If you only have one option, that's totally fine if it's like a medium, but I would probably start off with a light band here. If you don't have a band, that's also okay. We are going to just go into hydrant position. So you're going to place that around the, just above the knee. Okay, looks like everyone has one. Perfect. So this one is going to be fantastic for obliques and the glute med. So we just did glute max, which is more under here. Glute med, we're gonna get that side glute, that side butt. So we're gonna come onto all fours like we're doing a little bear plank or quadruped position. We are gonna do a little bit of a tuck. So we're gonna think we've practiced those. We're gonna pull those hip bones up towards the rib cage, kind of flatten that back out. And then you can tuck your toes under to give you more stability. All right, so we've got that position down. Beautiful. Starting with the left leg, just because that's going to be more challenging. We're going to exhale as we lift the leg up and out. Inhale together. So from this angle, exhale up and out. Inhale down. Trying to keep your chest and your hips as parallel to the ground as possible. So trying not to tilt. All right, just staying on that left side. It doesn't have to be super high. The goal is here is not, it's not height, it's feeling that glute turn on. Yes. There we go. We exhale as we lift. Inhale slowly down. That's going to really get those obliques working. So obliques are the sides. Obliques and transverse. That's going to be kind of our corset that pulls everything in. There we go. Nice. Heather, that looks really, really good. Betsy, awesome. Back is staying totally still. Nice, Anna. All right, let's go about 3 more on that side, and then we're going to switch. Sorry, Heather, you got more glute work just for you.
Yeah.
Good. So again, if we are really focusing on this one, you're going to feel not just in the glutes, but those side body muscles start to bring it into. That's what's going to keep us super, super locked in, keeping those hips and chest parallel to the ground. Looks good. So about 8 to 10 on each side. All right. We can take that band off, sink into child's pose for a minute, release those hips. So this one, more important, like I said, we're focusing on that glute med, the outside. So we're focusing on stabilizing, again, those hips and then those obliques, those transverse abdominal muscles. So the side piece of that pelvis. So if we're ever dealing with any hip pain, hip instability, that's going to be a good one to target there. Um, Always thinking with any of these, and I know I made notes on a lot of them too. As you're exhaling again, we're thinking, we're kind of lifting up. We're trying to stabilize that pelvic floor, so we're trying to lift that up. As we let that leg come down, we're thinking slowly relaxing it. Okay. But again, focus more right now on that strength piece. We can talk more about that next week as well, but I want you to try to be activating that glute med and those obliques. Okay. Did we feel the core coming in as well? Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so next piece I want to go over. I don't want to hold us up too much. I want to try to get us straight out at 7:30 because you guys have dinner to eat, kids to put away, and bedtime. So I want to look at hormone health. Okay, I know Anna's been through this process. I know Heather's been through this process. Betsy, I know we've talked a little bit about that. But there is a resource, and I'm going to put this on everyone's schedule for tomorrow so you can start to review it. There is a resource if you haven't looked at it already, which is going to be your hormone blueprint. Okay, so I am going to share this with you as we go through it. Let me share my screen, and then we're just going to take the next 15 minutes to kind of run through that. And again, since it's just the four of us, I'm going to have you go ahead and ask me any questions that you have as we go through it. So we
I
can.
don't know if you can see it. Britt logged on, but she doesn't have a video.
Okay. Hi, Britt.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you taking like some or taking care of some kiddos, or are you able to take
Yes,
a moment?
I'm taking care of some kiddos, but I'm listening.
Oh, you are good. Perfectly fine. Awesome. All right, so I'm just gonna pull up. Sorry, I've got too many resources, everybody. I might just share it from the app. Okay. There it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and then we'll bump through it. So again, I know many of you have um, a lot of information already about our hormones as women, um, and how they impact our body. And of course, we talked about macros over the past week. And the reason I had you all calculate your macros, the reason I had you focus on that is because our macronutrients, our protein, our carbohydrates, our fats are the key components for things like hormone production. Okay. So without the proper nutrients, our body is going to struggle producing the appropriate hormones. So and I'm pretty sure we're all 34, 35 plus here. So we were thinking there have been issues with menstruation, there have been issues with, hormones after postpartum. Most of us are looking towards perimenopause or menopause. Okay. So when we're talking about hormones, they're important for all of us, especially as we move through the next phases in life. So, hormonal imbalances, I'm pretty sure all of us have experienced some of these. So some of the main signs for hormone imbalances, and this is looking at estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and cortisol are our main sex hormones that we want to focus on, as well as even thyroid, so that's T3, T4. So things like persistent fatigue. This is again, as working moms, all of that. Most of us have probably dealt with fatigue on some level. When we think of persistent fatigue, it's that fatigue where we're crashing out around 3, 4 o'clock every day, like we feel like we could fall asleep. We're waking up maybe exhausted. We're waking up in the middle of the night and can't get to sleep. Or we're feeling like we're just dragging ourselves through the day. Okay, not necessarily like, oh, I had a bad night of sleep. I'm just feeling tired today. This is like ongoing. And oftentimes we do like to push ourselves through it. But if that is something that's like, yeah, that sounds familiar. we're most likely dealing with some type of imbalance there. And we'll talk about how we want to look at regulating that as well. Irregular periods, if we're closer in that 35 to 45 range, most likely irregular periods are hormonal imbalances in the sense of, okay, maybe we need to look into this because we do want to still continue to have a normal period. As we're shifting more into later 40s and into 50s, most likely we're heading into menopause. So irregular periods are not necessarily an issue. Do we still want to understand where our hormones are? Yes, for sure. Do we still want to support them? Absolutely. A big one, unexplained weight gain or inability to lose weight. If we are doing everything we can, between eating right, exercising, getting our steps in, everything we feel like we need to lose weight, and we're just not doing it. Again, most likely there is a hormone imbalance, and this can take a while to regulate. This has blood sugar involved in it. This has cortisol involved in it, which can store belly fat fat in areas like our belly, into our glutes, into our hips. So it can be a really frustrating one. So again, we'll kind of dive deeper into that. Mood swings, which most of us have also probably experienced, but ones beyond like PMS, where we might not be able to control our irritability, our anger, or anxiety is a huge one. If you're like, my anxiety is just skyrocketing, and there's no real reason why, most likely it is our lovely hormones. And then the last one is skin issues or hair issues. If we're dealing with, skin that is becoming more fragile or thinner, if we're looking at issues with acne, loss of hair, brittle nails, again, most likely a hormone. I know when we talk about that too, sometimes it's like a micronutrient, like we might be missing some of our B vitamins or our magnesium or things like that. Those nutrients are still also very, very linked to hormone health. Okay, so those are kind of looking at the five main areas that might be throwing, might be looking like, okay, this is definitely a hormonal issue. And then just a real brief focus. So sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, those are our main sex hormones that we as females need to feel healthy, strong, energized, and have a good menstrual cycle. And just a real quick, so estrogen, we often don't talk about what all these hormones do. Yes, they have a lot to do with our menstrual cycle or being able to get pregnant and fertility. But for example, estrogen, it's also going to help with bone density. It's going to help with the regulation of even cholesterol levels. Okay, so if we're suddenly starting to see, especially in perimenopause, if we're suddenly starting to see cholesterol start to elevate for no apparent reason, it's very much going to come back to estrogen, and we can absolutely talk about where to support estrogen levels so that is not a concern. Bone density, all of us are going to be wanting to very much bring awareness there because we will all be facing that because all of us will experience at some point in our life estrogen drops. Okay, so bone density is going to become very, very important. Testosterone is going to be important for libido, muscle mass, so also linking to that bone density. If we're having issues where we're not putting on lean muscle, we're looking at testosterone. If we're having issues with libido or just, when we're thinking of our partners, our husbands, and we're not having that attraction or we're just not having that desire, libido is going to be a huge one linked to testosterone. Progesterone is probably the most important one specifically for our ovaries, for, of course, getting pregnant, for maintaining a healthy pregnancy, and then, yes, very much for our menstrual cycle. So if we are having a lot of big changes with menstrual cycle, if we're dealing with a lot of issues around fertility, progesterone is going to be one that we are going to be looking into. All right. Real quick, three types of estrogen. How many of you knew there was three types of estrogen? Yeah. So three types of
Raised my
estrogen.
hand, but
Estrogen.
only because of you.
Same here. Same here. It took me going back to med school before I learned that there were three types of estrogen. So estrone, estradiol, estriol, they are all three extremely, extremely important. Estradiol is the one that's usually tested when you go and get a blood test. Still something that we should look at, absolutely, but oftentimes will come back normal because it is our balancing estrogen. Estrone is going to be the one that is our least desirable, but still important. We still want it. But if it's too high, it can cause inflammation in the system. If it's too high for too long, it can lead to things like autoimmune diseases. This is usually what can lead to estrogen-based cancers. If too high for too long, not to put any fear into you, that is just something that we always want to look at. But estrogen is still very, very important for bone, heart, and brain health as well. Excuse me. So coming down to estriol, that is going to be one of the most desirable estrogens. Very important for pregnancy and keeping a healthy pregnancy, especially into that third trimester. But it's also very, very, very important for keeping inflammation out of our body. So oftentimes we like to support estriol when we are dealing with inflammatory states. Okay, so if our body is in a high inflammatory situation, we do want to target estriol specifically. DHEA is one that most of us are not or have never heard of. DHEA is super, super, super important. How many of you have heard of DHEA? Yeah, yeah. I had no idea what DHEA was again until I literally had never heard of it once until I went back to school. But important for cholesterol, metabolism, blood pressure, sex hormones, and blood sugar. Blood sugar is huge. So this one we often target by making sure your adrenal function is healthy. So if you are dealing with high levels of stress for long periods of time, oftentimes we see DHEA actually spike for a moment. So maybe for a few months, a year, it might spike. But if we're continuing to be under a long bouts of stress, that DHEA will crash down. We need DHEA to produce testosterone and estrogen. So if we're really sluggish on the DHEA in our adrenals, then we are most likely not producing enough estrogen or testosterone. Okay, so that is going to come in as something that's very, very important. I'm so mean. I'm calling out the 20-year-old influencers.
I'm laughing.
So cortisol has been like a huge, huge thing over the last couple of years, hyping it up, saying that people are super, especially women are super high in cortisol. I'm not going to say the 20-year-olds aren't super high in cortisol. I'm not going to say I wasn't super high on cortisol in my 20s. And that's what probably led to my cortisol being totally tanked out in my 30s. So my cortisol, when I did get it tested, looked like it didn't exist. It was so depleted. And cortisol is important to keep our wake sleep cycle in order. It's to help keep our energy. So throughout the day, we're supposed to slowly wake up in the morning, feeling good, refreshed. Our energy peaks in the afternoon and then slowly drops off at night. So we shouldn't have these crashes midday. We shouldn't feel exhausted when we wake up. We should feel refreshed. So most of us probably aren't necessarily feeling that way. Most of us might be dealing with some of those slumps in the afternoon. But when cortisol is too low, when it's depleted, just think of like running on an empty battery. Fatigue, brain fog, headaches, and this is where weight gain can come in because cortisol is going to be helping us with fat storage. Okay, so that is where that part starts to come in as well. As I said, impact on women's weight. High cortisol can also increase belly fat, but unfortunately, when we're in that high state for too long and we drop off, that is where we end up leading to inability to lose that weight. Okay. Pituitary, thyroid gland, I don't want to get too much into that. These are just some other hormones that are going to pop up if you ever get a hormone test, especially a blood test. Your FSH, that's going to be for the ovarian health, your LH, that's going to help with ovulation. So those are going to be really helpful for fertility. Thyroid, that T3, that T4, these are going to be important for specifically thyroid function. And this is how your body actually uses energy from food. So we're talking about our macros, we're talking about how we need to actually give our body the nutrients. Your thyroid is what's going to help us metabolize our food. It's going to help us use that energy from our food. So also very, very, very important. So how do we rebalance? Great question. So obviously I always say test, don't guess type thing. But testing can be very, very challenging when it comes to going to your normal doctor. If they do go for it, absolutely get it all done, get your blood panel done yearly. I always suggest So, full panel thyroid, your metabolic, so cholesterol, blood sugar, get your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone done. Sometimes you have to ask a few times to make sure you can get the testosterone in there. You can absolutely get cortisol tested. There's always options to do saliva testing as well, which can be a little bit more accurate on certain pieces. But if you can get tested, amazing, go for it. If it's like in between or doctors are being difficult, what I always tell people, and that's why we kind of focus here on these foundations, is looking at if it's energy first, right? We need to work from the top down. So that's where we start to think about nervous system regulation. We start to relax the body. We start to focus on that adrenal function. So we're looking at cortisol improving, your DHEA improving, because remember, DHEA is what's going to support estrogen and testosterone as well. So if we can start getting that adrenal function going, and I'm pointing up here, but really adrenals are above our kidneys, but if we can start de-stressing, so again, nervous system regulation, breath work, super, super important. Your pelvic floor work is breath work as well. If you couldn't tell, it's going to target that phrenic nerve. It's going to target into tapping into our vagus nerve as well, which is going to slow our system down. So breath work, really focusing on sleep management. So getting those 7, 8 hours of sleep a night, focusing on a healthy, balanced diet. So actually hitting our macros, getting the nutrients we need. If our body is in stress mode because it's not getting the nutrition, not getting the macros it needs, it's again going to be either spiking that cortisol or depleting that cortisol and those adrenals. So getting the nutrition we need. So nervous system regulation, sleep, getting the nutrients we need. Okay. Nowhere in there did I say exercise. Yes, that's important, but those are the three that we need to start with. We need to start by letting ourselves relax, release, breathe, and pull back for a moment. Okay. Then, if you can see in step four, that is where we start to increase movement. Okay. So there's also, of course, anti-inflammatory. Yes, you can get rid of caffeine, some added sugar, alcohol, processed foods, those will help. But then we move into movement. So we think steps, we think strength training. So that is where I want you to start to think about what we're doing over the course of the next 2 weeks. Last week, we were focusing on just those daily non-negotiables, getting your steps in, getting your 3 workouts in, and just getting your protein in, or at least 3 meals a day. This time, we're going to focus on those 3 meals, but we're going to focus on all those macronutrients and see how close we can get there. I'll be giving you feedback as you log, but let's see how close we can get to those macronutrients. We're going to still focus on our pelvic floor work, that strength, but also that breath work combined. And then this week, our steps, last week was 6,000 to 8,000. This week, we're going to move into about 7,000 to 9,000. So we're going to slowly increase our steps as well. Okay. So you can go over this on your own after the supplements, any helpful supplements. And any questions you ever have, please send them over to me. But these are some supplements you've probably heard about in the past. Those are hormone testing. But again, what we're focusing on together is rebalancing without that extra support. We're rebalancing just in our own bodies. So that is the hormone piece. Any questions you have as you go through this week, this will be in your app. Any questions you have, send them my way.